Hello everyone in YouTube land, Steve Spock. As you may notice, my voice sounds a little bit out of tune. That's because I'm coming down with a cold. Please note that. Anyway, today there's going to be a meeting at the old police station, which is across the street from my house. They're going to be talking about how George Criswell wants to turn the place over there into a Fiat dealership. Anyway, I'm going to go over there and see what he wants to say, and then I'll come back and comment on it after we see what he has to say. These are some of the signs that are posted up outside. No C4 zoning. You want to change the zoning to C4. That's what that's for. Communities against rezoning old police station. Here's the old police station on Route 2. There's Route 2 out there where all those cars are going by.
I like George Criswell.
Yeah.
So I would never think that was loud.
But you don't want a dealership in this neighborhood?
Well, I'm a little concerned about what is after the deal. Like, I like George Criswell, but I'm a little concerned what happens after George leaves. What if the Fiat dealership doesn't work out?
Wow, that's a good turnout.
96
Why are we here this evening? And then I'm going to turn it over to George. We're here this evening to ask the community to join in with us in proposing a new car dealership at this location.
We don't need that.
Okay. Yeah, we're going to have plenty of time, and I would appreciate it if we could just keep civil about it. We're all, we're not lived in here my whole life, not in Edgewater, but in Apple. So we're all here. At the end of the day, look, we're all going to leave friends. We don't want any arguments and screaming and hollering. So let's just try to handle it as we can in just a civil manner. Many of you have your opinions. It's a great country. That's fine. I think there's some people here as well that are maybe in the middle and want to learn something. So that's our purpose, is to ask your support. We're going to show you what we're proposing. And at the end of the day, you all have to say, okay, I'm okay with this. I'll sit down and work with you, and we'll come up with some agreements to make sure it's what you say it's going to be. Or you say, leave it like it is. We're going to wait and take a chance and see what happens. So, having said that, I won't say any more, and I'm going to turn it over now to George Criswell, and in about 15 minutes, he's going to go through some of these pictures you can't see. I apologize. But they'll be here for you to look at later on. So I'm going to sit down and turn it over to George Criswell. And thank you again for coming out.
John, thank you. I want to thank you all for coming as well. I'm George Criswell. I want you to know I live in Edgewater. I don't know if you know that or not. I live in this community. I don't live in Edgewater Beach or Chestnut Hill. I live in Edgewater, a few miles from here. I'm married. I have a little boy who's 10 years old. I have a little girl who's 12 years old. The reason I say that, what goes here is also important to me. They drive by here. I go by this location every single day. They go by this location every single day. I want what's appropriate to go here as well. And basically what I'd like to review with you is some options that we can do to work together. I know there's opposition. We've talked to an awful lot of people in the community. And John and I talked about this. Surprisingly, I was pleasantly surprised at how many people that some of them are here tonight, but many of them aren't here, that are supportive of the project once you hear all the facts. A couple of things that we heard as we walked through the neighborhood and talked to many of you. Traffic. You know, what happens with traffic in the community and things like that. There's going to be more traffic that comes in. This is, and I know it's small, I apologize. This is basically the site plan right here, and this is closed off. As the covenants say, when development occurs, this entrance at Virginia Avenue going into our parking lot gets closed off permanently with a curb cut, sidewalk, and also a row of trees along this side right here. So there won't be any traffic that turns, when you turn here into the site, there's no entrance onto the site from Virginia Avenue, so it's completely blocked off from the community. In addition to that, well, let me back up a little bit more. These are some of our locations on West Street. I don't know if you've been up there. If you haven't been by our locations on West Street, please go by. There's no flags or streamers. There's no farm animals there for promotions or anything like that. There's no flashing lights. It's a professional-looking car dealership at the Acura store. Here's a picture of our Audi store. Here's another overall picture with landscaping and that sort of thing. It's also important to know that I have just right behind us residential. Actually, catty corner to us is residential. I know this isn't a new ballgame for me. I want the neighbors that are nearby to be pleased with what we do. Because if I make you all unhappy, you're not going to buy cars from me. So I'm here to work with you to try to beautify this building, which is an eyesore right this second. It's looked terrible for the last 5 years, and I've kind of had enough of it, to tell you the truth. It's terrible looking. Anyway, these are our locations. One other concern that I heard over and over again was the lighting. The lights are going to be shining in my house, particularly on Chestnut Avenue here, all hours of the night. The reason I bring this up is these lights are it's a box light that shines down. The old style is a spotlight, and you see them on some of the cheaper used car lots and things like that just shine out and go wherever the light goes. These days, the professional car dealerships bring in a lighting architect. The light shines down. You minimize any of the overflow that goes into the community. You know, that's just what you do. That way it's not shining in your eyes at night when you're trying to sleep, that type of thing. The other thing that's important, and we do this already at our store on West Street, at 11 o'clock at night, you notice there's 2 lights here. Some of these poles will have 4 lights. Half the bank goes off at 11 o'clock at night, and on other parts of the lot, the whole pole will go out at 11 o'clock at night. The reason that's important is we don't need, number one, it's ecologically better. You're not wasting energy, and it doesn't bother the neighbors. I mean, we just basically need a security lighting type of situation after hours. Okay? This is a Fiat store in Gaithersburg, Maryland. It happens to be my brother's store. My brother Harry turned me on to Fiat. Fiat evaluated this site, and they've deemed it that it's an appropriate site and that success is very likely at this location because of the 60,000 cars a day that go by here. The traffic count is huge. An awful lot of people go by here in their car. That's the overall look of the building right here. Let me keep on going here. Hours of operation, a big concern. We're closed on Sundays. We're closed on Sundays. We close at 6 o'clock on Saturdays. Not 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock, or we don't have 24-hour thons or anything like that. We have normal business hours. Actually, a little short for a car dealership, frankly. Fridays, we close at 6:30 on Friday nights. Monday through Thursday, those 4 days a week, we are open till 9 o'clock for sales. Service closes at 6, but till 9 o'clock, we do have a sales operation that's open. Fortunately or unfortunately, the amount of prospects that come in between 6 and 9 o'clock at night are minimal. We might get 8 to 10 prospects on a weeknight that come in. They're either picking up their car, but it's a low traffic count between those hours. Most of the business is done between 9 o'clock and 6 p.m. Monday through Friday. Saturdays, a lot, the sales, a little bit more traffic on Saturdays. So the hours of operation are reasonable. Streamers, intercom systems, noise. We don't do streamers, as you can see. Okay, the intercoms, I don't know if some of you might be familiar with technology. You don't need intercoms anymore. The communication can happen directly from an individual in the store to that person that's on the lot. Okay, there doesn't need to be a broadcast of noise. Okay. Back to traffic, we also have our risk manager comes in once a year to evaluate our test drive route. We have a designated test drive route for safety. People actually get kidnapped on a test drive on occasion. It's never happened to us, thank God, but they require us to have a test drive route. That test drive route will not be through Chestnut Hill or Edgewater Beach, I assure you of that. There's no need to. But in addition to that, here's some options that we can show with the landscaping, which again, it's heavy trees here, heavy landscaping here, or you can choose to do landscaping with a fence along there. We have an opportunity right now to work together as to how we develop this site. If you don't want a fence, we don't have to put a fence up. If you want a fence, we can put a fence. Somebody actually mentioned a little bit earlier tonight, maybe some landscape lighting to beautify the community as you come down Virginia Avenue. I thought that was an excellent idea, frankly. We have the ability right now to do these types of things. Here's another view looking east, coming down Virginia Avenue with heavy trees and landscaping. And again, I know it's hard to see. Or a fence that goes across with mature trees along there. So you can see it actually in these areas. So my point is that we have options that we can work together with to make it an appropriate or minimize, I guess I should say, the impact to the neighborhood. The other thing that I have to say is that there are uses that are allowed in C2 that are, in my opinion, and could be worse than a car dealership. So really what we're trying to decide is do we go with the conventional C2 use, which is a 24-hour type restaurant or a Motel 6 or something like that, or maybe it's a car dealership, maybe not such a bad idea. I don't know. It's up for you to decide. I can assure you of one thing: this site has to be developed. It's a commercial piece of property, and I can't wait any longer. I mean, I've had 5 years with essentially no income coming in on this location, and it's going to be developed. I know people hate change. I hate change. But at least we can control some of this change and have the foresight and the courage to look at some of these ideas with an open mind. And I think together we can accomplish some good things together and turn it into something special.
Okay, thank you, George. Less than 15 minutes. Now, one of the things that we heard over and over again was that if we granted the C4 zoning, it means that we did a chart which shows all the C4 uses here, and what this is up, that you can do any of the C4 uses on the list. Of course, one is the adult bookstore. I heard that. Well, if we give you C4, you're going to have an adult bookstore or adult entertainment. Are they allowed in the C4 use? Yes, they are allowed. Everything that is on this board is allowed in C4. Now, the question comes up, how do you guarantee that you do not get these C4 uses? Very simple. We sit down with the communities affected or with a group of people within the community to establish a covenant and restrictions. I have prepared this evening, we had our lawyer prepare a covenant and restriction agreement, just a draft. We knocked out those uses we found the most objectionable. Those being, of course, the adult bookstore, the adult entertainment, 24-hour restaurants, and a motel and a hotel 6, which are allowed in the C4, in both C2 and C4. So that's a question that we wanted to put to rest immediately. Because, I mean, these rumors get started. When I was going door to door, I heard a lot of that. And we did try to get to see some people here tonight. We didn't get to every door, but where we did, this is what we explained. So, having said that, I have for you tonight a copy of the covenants. We've got about 50 copies. I'm going to give those out at the end of the meeting. Take them home, look them over. And what we're hoping at the end of the day, we're going to go to the questions and answers now, is that there is a group of people in the room tonight, or an association, that is willing to sit down with us and exclude the uses in C4 that you don't want. Why are we asking for C4? It is the only zone that allows a new car dealership. C3 is across the street, over on this side by the C2. C3 is across the street. I have a zoning map that I can show you. C2 is next to us. On the other side is C3, which is a commercial shopping center.
That's a combination C2, C3, it's not C3.
Okay, well, okay. I can show you the map. Our point. Let's move past that. If C3 would work, we take C3. If C1 would work, we take C1. C2 doesn't work. So I'm going to stop talking now, and I think we've kept our word. We've done it in about 20 minutes. We've presented what we would like. So at this point, if you have questions, the gentleman in the rear, if you would please, I was asked if you would state your name and your address. If you don't want to, you don't have to, but some people asked and people, so I said, okay, it's up to you.
My name is Chris Barry. I'm on 17 Pennsylvania. First off, are you going to get LEED certified for the building renovation?
LEED certified?
Yeah.
I don't know the answer to that question yet. We're going to go through the Anne Arundel County process. We're going to go through some of the Fiat requirements. Fiat basically has a building that they put nationwide, and I say it's their design that they've designed. Anywhere where I can come in with energy efficiencies and things like that, we're going to go. I mean, it lowers my electric bill. My electric bills are out of sight. Just because of the volume of the use. So anything that we can do to minimize our footprint, absolutely I want to do things like that.
On the same topic, if you could, it'd probably be a lot more efficient for you to put motion detectors in your lights and gives you better security. So you have really low levels of lighting, except when someone's wandering around. And of course, when the police know that this light is on and there's a guy underneath there, that's probably not the right thing.
Absolutely.
Please put, if you could, do motion detectors and say, the HID bulbs are very expensive.
Right.
Electricity is expensive. And then minimize the light pollution, level around 5-6 lumens.
Sure. Absolutely.
If someone cannot hear, we'll repeat the question. Yes, sir.
Thank you. My name is Buddy Garland, and I'm the president of the other community at Port Beach here. And you guys probably are looking for exchange of information, civility, and some trust. I assume that's why you want to hold a meeting like this.
Absolutely.
And with this many people, there's a risk of not having those. Right?
Okay.
And so I'm going to kind of violate your rule of question and answer, and I'll state some of the issues that people are concerned about, and you can hear them in a calm, civil voice, and you can think about them and process and try to figure out where to go with it.
Okay.
I am a member of the Lee Conservancy. What the Lee property did was they brought all the communities in. Jim Davis is a fellow one there. Joan is here. I'm sorry. The Lee Conservancy, in building the Lee Airport Park, they engaged all the communities. And we're talking South River Park and Southdown. They reached out broadly, and in doing so, they started to build that trust. And surprisingly, over a 5+ year period, I think they got everything they wanted over time, and everybody felt like they had a voice in it, and they could participate in some of the decision making about everything from the way the wall looks to the time of day the street lights are on and things like that. So that's probably a good model for that. And a little bit of uniqueness about this property compared to the Lee property, for example, this was public property for over 50 years, and so the county came out and engaged us and said, hey, we're going to switch from public property to private property, and we want to know what your inputs are. And so they kind of made some agreements with the community, but the key was they engaged. They really spent a lot of time trying to talk to individual members of the community, to the leadership, things like that. In that process, certainly the communities felt like there was a covenant there. I mean, you're talking about a written covenant, but there was clearly some feeling of, okay, in transfer from public to private, we're giving up something. We used to have the security of a police department, and now we've got a non-police department, regardless of what the use is. And so in that process, we were looking for how do we retain the security, sanctity, whatever, of the property. So there is a zoning process, and John, you referred to the zoning process happens once every 10 years. It's the comprehensive zoning process. There actually is a zoning process every single week. As the president, I get a list of them, and it says all these people are seeking zoning changes. Now, do you know Jerry South?
Yes.
Runs Town Park, right?
Yeah.
He's my brother's partner. Okay, so Jerry South went through this process, and on week 30, he's going to get a review for a variance to allow a dwelling addition, etc.
Sure.
And his case will be heard in the public. They put out a sign. Everybody drives by the sign. We've actually had neighbors go through that same process. So that process is available every single week of the year. So we wouldn't have to wait 10 years. And I think that promotes a level of transparency and gets to that trust. And I think
Good questions. I'm prepared to answer when you're ready.
No, I'm not really looking for an answer.
No, there are answers. You can ask a question. I've got
Okay,
the answer.
I withdraw the question. I was really looking to just put out an idea that if we follow the existing process, it will help build the trust and it will promote the civility. Because I know the civility and the trust is what I'm looking for. You know, that shirt, wearing that shirt promotes trust and civility. Okay, and that's what I would think that we're also looking for trust and civility. The Lee family has achieved that. And I'll tell you, go talk to Van Lee, and there's times when he's been pulling his hair out, I'm sure, because we've sitting in some of his meetings, and I mean, if you have 5 return gym leaks on you, look out. I mean, people will be very persistent about the community, and it's your community too.
Absolutely.
And so you would also be persistent. And I think that there is an opportunity to do that, to use amendments. I saw Councilman Walker here earlier, to use the amendments and this process. It feels like, and it's not, but it feels like a hostage situation. You feel like, okay, I'm going to make an amendment. What do you think? What do you think? What do you think? And by the time you get to react, the gun goes off. And that's what it feels. And I know that's not your intention, which I'm glad to see your amendment was not in the list of the ones recently put forward. But I would propose that if we look at the Lee model and work with community, like this is a great start. It won't be done by August. It won't be done by December. But you can bring together people and start talking and get to some understanding, and you'll know what every person is thinking. And you're right. Ultimately, it may be a group of people. Because when we meet with the Conservancy, there's only 6 or 7 of us that meet. But we represent thousands. And that's probably where you want to move to. So I think a lot of people in the room may not feel the anger and the uncivil tones if they feel like there's a way to have an open process. And I think the comprehensive zoning and those amendments feels like a side door or a back door. And I know that's not the way you want to get into the community. It's a cars. The community is not.
Let me, if I might, answer.
Thank you, buddy.
So we'll start with the first question. And you mentioned the side door and the back door. The comprehensive rezoning process started last year. You were supposed to have had applications in to start the process February of 2010. The county council, and I would venture to say 90% of the people in the county are not aware that the comprehensive zoning process is even underway for the whole county because it comes every 10 years. The county council provided a vehicle for a person, any person, to submit an application to rezone their property. We took advantage of that process on May the 23rd of this year. On May the 20th, and after we had put the request for an amendment in, I spoke to your councilman and I said, how do we get started with the communities? And he suggested, sit down with Jim Doyle and start. And that's where we started on May the 26th. We had a meeting. And as a result of that, we are having this meeting that we're sponsoring to go forward. Now let me ask the question that was brought up. Why don't you withdraw the application and let's go through what I will refer to as the piecemeal zoning process, which happens every week. If you wanted to, Mr. Criswell can go, fill out an application, and go through a zoning hearing officer. One man, one person, sits down, listens to the case, he makes the decision. It is not a comprehensive process. We prefer this reason, and let me be very clear about why we prefer it. I don't know what the right word to use is, but in terms of being people that you want your officials. I didn't elect the zoning hearing officer to make a decision. I elected the members of the county council that represent everyone. This process, buddy, takes place every 10 years. That's why we're doing it now, and that's why we're doing it this way. In terms of trust, and I hear you loud and clear, I don't know if any of you are familiar with the village of Lawn Chapel and Crofton. We were the ones that actually started the mixed-use district. We had the communities just like this. We sat down and we worked out the covenants. And yes, we can do it in less than 30 days. This is not rocket science. If this is what you want, okay, this can be done. We have the covenant right here. So in answer to your first question, why did we do this? A, it comes every 10 years. B, why don't you wait and do it the other way? First of all, it takes a couple of months to get on the docket. I do it and I can attest to that. This process, by August the 1st, is the last date, August the 1st, is the last date that an amendment can be put in for anyone. So, by August the 1st, we need to have someone to put an amendment in to change the zoning of the property. So that's the deadline. That is our window in order to do it. If you miss that date, then we will wait until 10 years from now.
My name is Chris Rosenthal, and I live across the street in the Leland,
Shut up so we can hear what's going on.
Leland North community, and our community as well will support Edgewater Beach and Chestnut Hill, whatever they decide. The question we got is, on our side of the street on Route 2, you hear all these rumors about rezoning over there, and next thing you know, it's a slippery slope. And what assurances do we have that this is not going to set a precedent for what would happen across the street? And I echo some of the thoughts that some of these other folks have, which is the process that you all went through at Lee Farms, which is before I moved in. I mean, it sounded like a pretty good process. It sounds to me like that's the process you're going to go through versus the spot zoning, which puts guys like Jerry on the spot. I mean, it makes it look bad.
Right. Well, we're prepared to go through that process in an accelerated fashion and to answer the question, because you can do this. I mean, come on, we put a guy on the moon. I mean, this don't say that we can't sit down as a group and work this out. You asked the question about this, and you said about the spot zoning and the slippery slope, okay? Which means if this is zone C4, the people across the street on Virginia Avenue can say, there's a change in the character of the neighborhood, now we want to have a car dealership there. I'm sorry for raising it, everybody. I apologize for losing my temper. If anything that is done through the comprehensive zoning process is not, I want to repeat it, is not spot zoning because it is done comprehensively, one. Secondly, you can check with this county tomorrow and call us. Secondly, if this property is zone C4 comprehensively through the 10-year process that we're in, which ends for us on August the 1st, the neighbors and anyone else cannot use that as an argument to say, you changed Criswell, now you got to change me. They can say it, but it has no basis because it is done in the comprehensive process. Now, they could challenge it if we went, as Mr. Buddy mentioned, and go and the hearing officer and get an answer. Somebody can say, I don't want that. You guys, it's spot zoning. And you can appeal it. And you'll be 5, 6, 7, 8 years in appeals. This is a chance for us to change it through the comprehensive process. Next question, yes, ma'am. This is Brown, right?
It is.
That's your house, right? Thank you for having me.
Next time you wake up my kids, I have a rule that you have to take him for an hour.
I agree with you. I apologize.
So, Mr. Criswell, if I were to buy a house, and my house were to devalue or not be saleable, I would do some minor investments. I'm not a rocket scientist, but I do understand that there's something called curb appeal investment. It doesn't seem to me that you really made this an attractive building for a C2. And I do happen to know somebody that put a call in to rent this space and never received a return call. It would have been an appropriate C2. They never got a return call after probably a dozen, maybe 15 calls to you.
To me?
To the leasing sign, yes.
Okay, I apologize. I was not aware of. If they had called, I return as many calls as I can. I never received a call quite like that, but clearly I guess the agents are.
Leasing agent, because that would have been an appropriate C2 business opportunity. But the real question is, why hasn't there been any? I mean, you talk about how great you are at landscaping. You haven't done anything to make this property even attractive a little bit. When you closed off the entrance to Virginia Avenue, yes, okay, we are a planned development, if that's the key phrase. You didn't do a great job with that either. So to try and get the community to back you and saying that you're doing something nice with this, you just don't seem to be getting off on the right foot.
It's an excellent question. The site, number one, this is a moving roller coaster. As the economy changes and you have these kinds of impacts that we've had over the last couple of years, I'd be willing to bet that every single one of us in here has been affected by the economy. There's no question. As that changes, it changes the way the direction's going. I mean, I'm trying to plan on doing this. This guy backs out on me. We should head in this direction. These people, I had another bank lined up at the time. It was looking solid. His president turned it down, even though his vice president wanted to move forward with it. My point is that it's not an easy process when the target keeps moving. Number one, let me finish though, please. I've spent about $70,000 on this site already. I know you can't see it, but if you look back 4 years ago with the 27 broken windows that were in this location, with the flagpole that somebody cut down out front to recycle the aluminum, with the huge mound that was out there, I've added public water at the cost of $15,000 right at the site. I painted the entire exterior, cleaned the roof, and actually painted, if you had come down here before, we actually almost couldn't meet in here, it was so bad. I mean, the county left it pretty bad because they knew that they were leaving. That's okay. I've spent about $75,000. I got to that point and said, I can't keep spending for a target that keeps moving. That's all that happened. I seal coated the lot, and you asked another question about the blocking Virginia Avenue. Again, and I think John covered that. Blocking Virginia Avenue was in the covenant when development occurred. We need to block off Virginia Avenue. I actually had people that were upset with me that blocked off Virginia Avenue. So I'm in this quandary of block it off, don't block it off.
It's the way you blocked it off.
You know? I'm sorry?
Excuse me, it's the way you blocked it off. I came up here the day this place got auctioned off, and they told at the auction that there would be a berm built there. You would have to put bushes and all that in.
A sidewalk and a road.
From what I understood, I didn't think it's when you get it developed. I thought as soon as you had somebody come in here and more or less rent this building out, you had to have that done.
Right.
Because we had outsiders coming in our community using that entrance to come in here and have their church. And that was not done like you were supposed to do.
Okay, well, we have a copy of the deed here, and it says when the site is developed that you block
were renting it out.
But what she's trying to say,
you had outsiders coming in our neighborhood, coming in this building.
If you wanted to get us on your good side, you should have blocked it off right away.
You went the wrong way about it.
Just like Tom or Jim Doyle was talking about the different confidences. There's plenty of things that you could have done first to get our approval. Now your back's up against the wall and you're kissing our ass. Excuse me, but now
well, you're not.
I'm
no,
sorry.
You're not.
But you're coming to us. But
I mean, but you would like us.
You know what I'm saying?
Deal and be
We've
nice
had
and
discussions
get along.
about
We all got to get
along. I'm just saying, if you
and
want
if it was in your front yard, you would want to approve it.
I don't know where you live at in Edgewater.
He lives in Davisonville.
What Joe is referring to, and I have a copy of it, I'll take your question right now. What she is referring to, there is a set of covenants. We have the deed here. And the deed says when development occurs on the site. And what Joe said, in retrospect, when I met with Jim Doyle, and Jim said, you guys are supposed to close it off as soon as you got a tenant. I didn't look at the deed. Okay? We closed it off. Yes, it was a temporary, looks like hell type of closing.
Damn right.
Absolutely.
Excuse me, you're damn right.
Right. We closed it. We closed that. The covenant says when development occurs. And I've had a talk with some people here, and they said the same thing Joe said. I'm not going to disagree with you. You can interpret it. What does development mean? Does development mean having a tenant in the site? Okay. So we'll get past that point.
Okay, now I'm going to give my take on what happened at the meeting. At the meeting, there were more questions than I got on video, and more answers. The way I feel is that George Criswell shouldn't open this dealership across the street. If he does, there might be a greater chance of crime in our neighborhood. Also, another thing you gotta look at is this area. Route 2 in Edgewater is not, and hopefully will never be, as busy as Route 2 in Glen Burnie. And that is thanks to there not being a lot of things off it. Anyway, George Criswell, I have a suggestion for you. If you want to win the support of the entire community, you could tell them that, or actually, you could give each person a free Fiat for the exchange of support. But I don't think that's in your budget, and you're probably, even if it is, you're probably not gonna want to do it. But then again, our community, some of the people feel threatened by what you're doing. So that's just something to think about. If you want to go about winning support. Anyway, that's my take and my idea for you. YouTube users, please subscribe and comment on my videos. And give my videos a thumbs up while you're at it. Until next time.